Good evening, everyone. We are live, and I want to thank you for joining us. As we get started, I'd like to first have some opening remarks from our chapter president, Tracy D. Harrison.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. I am Tracy Harrison. As was stated, I am the president of Xi Zeta Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. We are grateful to have you join us this evening for this really important mental health webinar on mental health strategies for educators. Xi Zeta Omega is the second chapter chartered in the District of Columbia, and we boast 275 members. During the pandemic, we noticed an increase in community mental health issues, as well as an increase in violence in our communities and toward our people. As a chapter, we decided to put together a mental health webinar series to empower and uplift our community. So we've done a number of these webinars since 2020, but we are so proud this evening to be able to focus a webinar on our educators. And as they begin to prepare for a restful summer, we want them empowered and engaged and uplifted and ready for some rest. But we also want to give them some strategies to work with as their commitment increases to educate and protect our students every day. The mental health issues that plague our community impact them as well. And so it's really important that we share some strategy. So even as you join us this evening, we ask you to grab your cell phone and text another educator and ask them to join us as well for this important series. And we certainly will have it recorded so that you can come back and listen to it later on. I am very grateful to all of our chapter members and our program committee, as well as our mental health committee chair, Nicole Jones, for putting together this webinar, and Mr. Andre Edwards for facilitating the webinar and talking us through these strategies so that we have information for the community. And as I get out of the way of this important discussion this evening, I'd like to turn the series over to our first vice president and program chairman, Ms. Valerie Vines Toyer. And as I turn the mic over to her, I'd like to thank her for her leadership and her guidance on this really important webinar series. Thank you all on the committee. Thank you all for joining us. Please follow our social media so that you'll be able to see other mental health webinars and other activities that are sponsored by Xi Zeta Omega chapter. Enjoy and have a pleasant evening. Valerie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening, all. Again, I am Valerie Vines Toyer, First Vice President and Program Chair. As stated, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated's goals are to drive impact by promoting the benefits of seeking help and treatment, facilitate the conversations and education that normalize the topic of mental health, increase our knowledge of the impact of trauma, anxiety, and depression, and identifying awareness about minority mental health providers. Mental health is a serious matter, and our mental health webinars have returned for 2024. Last year, our mental health committee, under the leadership of Nicole Jones, brought forth informative webinars on a range of topics from surviving burnout, the stigma of mental health, and suicide prevention, all areas that affect our community. We are kicking off the 2024 series addressing mental health strategies for educators. Often our educators invest their time and energy in supporting their students' well-being, often neglecting their own well-being. It is time to explore this phenomenon as we continue to support our educators. We invite you to join us for these important discussions. that will empower our families and also uplift our communities. Again, I thank you for joining us. I want to again thank our mental health committee for the work that they are doing. Back to you, Nicole Jones, as you introduce our speaker.
Yes, thank you so much. And I just want to say I appreciate our leadership and all the support for the mental health initiatives that we have done last year and this year. Before I get into introducing our dynamic speaker today, I want to talk about what we have done for Mental Health Month. May this year, we actually teamed up with Deanwood Recreation Center and we did a mental health information table, which was exciting to meet our neighbors in our chapter neighborhood. We were able to get some people registered to vote. And so it was a really awesome event, sharing information about mental health and resources right in their own community. We also scheduled to have Go-Go Fitness in the park. Unfortunately, our original date, May 18th, was rained out. So now we have a new date. We're also sharing that flyer on our website. If you're able to join us, please join us on June 22nd at 9 a.m. to noon. We're going to be out there in the park painting it pink, teaming up with DC government for fitness. It's called Move for Mental Health, DC Moves for Mental Health Challenge. And so come out and join us. And this tonight is our third part of our kickoff for Mental Health Month. And so without any further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker for this evening. Mr. Andre Edwards is a graduate of the University of Pittsburgh with a master's degree in social work. Whoop, whoop, social work. Mr. Edwards is a licensed clinical social worker in Washington, D.C. with over 17 years of experience. He is also an author, a father, and a husband. Mr. Edwards ineptly fosters staff development and consultation, understanding that true efficacy originates from an internal locus. His compassionate approach extends to guiding students grappling with anxiety and self-doubt. While also offering invaluable insight to school professionals on nurturing these individuals and fostering their own well-being. So I want to say he's also going to share with us a phenomenal book that he has written that's going to be a real benefit for those educators who also borrowed in regards to their career. So without a further ado, I'm going to add Mr. Edwards to the stage. Welcome, and thank you so much for being our guest speaker today.
Well, thank you, Ms. Jones. I appreciate you for allowing me to present to your awesome group here. And thank you, President Harrison and the committee for allowing me and having me here to be able to present this topic about self-care for educators. Educators are an important group to our students. You're a very critical group to this nation as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and move forward. And I hope you guys take copious notes, notes that matter to you during this presentation, and notes that could possibly be of value for yourself or anyone who's close to you. So let me just move through this presentation. I don't have a lot of time, but want to have the concept of being, doing, and having. So we want to be aware of our mindset. Do we prioritize the subject of self-care? Are we aware of our triggers? Are we aware of our emotions and the needs that we have in respect to being? Also doing, do we practice the daily habits that include self-care? Do we do those different things that relate to that? Also, do we have any healthy habits or boundaries? Also, we want to think about transformation in terms of having. What about being able to have the energy and the esteem and the mental clarity after performing your self-care practices? So this is more so about being, doing, and having. You could take this concept into almost anything, but we're going to talk about this and use this in the subject of self-care. Also, it's about fulfillment in terms of having and also building resilience. Let's move forward. So a little bit about mental health. This is May Mental Health. I'm not going to go too deep into the subject, but it's always good to refresh ourselves. Mental health is health. If we don't have mental health, it's going to be very challenging for us, right? Mental health is not mental illness. So just because I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, a person is not doing well, they're acting off," so that's just mental health. It doesn't mean that they're mentally ill. It means that there may be something going on with that person at that time or that incident that they may need a little bit of assistance, right? Also, mental health is on a spectrum. It can be either good or poor or somewhere in the middle. So mental health, really think about it as, something that can go left or right, back and forth. It's not something that's so binary. Mental health exists on the spectrum. Also, poor mental health is not necessarily mental illness. Like I said earlier, a lot of people confuse or use mental health as a general term to communicate someone is mentally ill. That's not necessarily it, because we're talking about self-care now. And while we're talking about self-care, we're talking about it in the context of teachers. And all of us have experienced times where we've felt where we weren't doing so well. We felt anxiety, we felt depression, we felt in different type of ways in different incidences, depending on what it was in our working day. So hope you take that in terms of some mental health basics. So I know there's a lot of persons on the line, but I just want you to consider what is your role in the educational system? What are the main stressors or challenges that you currently face in your role? How much time can you realistically dedicate to self-care on a daily or weekly basis? Do you have any limitations or concerning physical activities, and how can you adjust or adapt to that, right? In terms of practicing within the context of self-care. So different things, we all have different life. We all have different lifestyles. I mean, and the things contribute to whether we can practice or how often or the quality of self-care that we could do for ourselves. So there's life events. All of us are involved in different relationships, and those life events can include financial, they can include health related, they can include legal events as well. That can all impact our mental, physical, and emotional health. Also, as far as other managing families, some of us are caregivers. Some of us have our own families where we're the head of household. Some of us may even inherited, other relatives where we have to take care of them. So all this can contribute to our health, right? Or therefore lack of it. So it's really incumbent on us to start thinking about, especially as a teacher, on a day-to-day basis, how do you center yourself in the middle in terms of life events and handling family affairs, especially if you're a caregiver of an older loved one, or you're a caregiver to a person that cannot do for themselves. How do you manage self-care? So some more things to consider. I have this picture here in terms of having a mindful, of being mindful or being mindful, right? We want to consider under being mindful, a person, they could be stressed, right? They could be reactive. They're not even aware why they're reactive to a person's words, right? That the smallest thing may trigger them, right? A mindful person maybe feel rushed or feel worried on a chronic or daily basis, and life may feel overwhelming to them. But in the matter of being, doing, and having more, being, doing, and having more, we want to become mindful. We want to learn to be present, focused, and have more controlled reactions when we're in the school setting, especially in the school setting where there's all type of personalities, not just from our students, but from who we work with, especially with our colleagues as well. So we want to be in a state where we're aware and relaxed. So it's about being aware and mindful. So there's different research and organizations that really point to the importance of self-care. I'm not going to read every. I'm not going to point out every single organization, but there are certain organizations such as the American Federation of Teachers, who said that in 2017 they conducted a survey and they said that teachers were often stressed out, which is the rate of 61% of educators said their work was always or often stressful, which is twice the rate felt by workers in the general population. The university research on the effects of self-care, they also said that studies conducted by universities often find a positive correlation between self-care practices and teacher retention rates. So you have self-care as something that's needed, and also you have organizations that support the notion of self-care to start practicing that, or at least possibly putting some policy in to prioritize self-care as something that's needed for educators and teachers. All right. So why is self-care so important? Why self-care? Because it's a biological imperative, because it's about wellness, because it's about the long run. It's about the big picture. It's about many things. It's about family. It's about relationships to self. It's about not just self-preservation, but you want to be the best person you can be, right? Self-care is so many things that I can't fit it into this one presentation. But it's often something that we have to be reminded of. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to have different questions, different prompts. I just want you to take at least 5 seconds just to consider, what do I need to feel connected, grounded, and safe in this moment, especially during your school day. I know we finished 2024, but what do I need to feel connected, grounded, and safe in this moment? I'll give you some suggestions. Some things that I recommend, especially on a daily basis, is before you even start your school day, find some quiet time. Find a quiet space where you could just be there for yourself. For instance, don't even start engaging in the day. Don't pick up your phone. Don't engage in social media, because we don't know what could be on that screen that could impact our mood. Also, prior to the night before, you want to monitor or be aware of what you're actually watching, right? You don't want to go to sleep with to negative news, or you don't want to go to sleep with horror movies, because all those things, they sink into our self-conscious, and whether we know it or not, we have several different levels of consciousness, and we have our subconscious that actually absorbs everything. That can't say yes, it can't say no, it just accepts everything, and we have to be mindful of that. So really be mindful about what you put into your mind the night before, and also as you get up during the morning, find a quiet space and quiet time before the school day starts to really ground yourself and plug yourself in for the day. Also, try some stretching. And this will just break all the carbon dioxide in your body up and get more oxygen in your system and get you more energized for your school day. Okay. So self-care is anything that is deliberate in terms of your emotional, taking care of your emotional, physical, and mental welfare or wellness. So, but what about effective self-care? It's the time that you take for practicing self-care. So it could be 10 to 15 minutes in an incident, right? So it's about the quality of self-care. It's about the practice of self-care. But often self-care is overlooked because it's simple. What's simple to do is easy to do and easy not to do as well. It's easy to do and easy not to do. But all these things, something that's practiced over time has a compound effect. So if you were, for instance, if you're to invest $1 and it had a certain interest rate over time, that dollar would increase tenfold. If you invest in self-care on a daily basis and you practice it over time, you'll have a better outcome for yourself. It's part of that being, doing, and having concept. So we want to have improved mood and anxiety after when we have that outcome, and we want to have it also builds a better relationship over time with yourself when you practice self-care over time and throughout your days and throughout your weeks and your lifetime as an educator, right? So even more questions. What is the impact of not prioritizing your self-care? Take about 3 seconds to consider that. Think about 3 seconds to consider that. Now, we know that self-care improves overall functioning over time. But if we were to neglect that, if we didn't prioritize self-care, I have one tidbit. It may not sound like something positive, but often chronic stress is linked to, there's a study that said chronic stress is linked to diabetes because of the constant blood glucose or blood sugar that's released into our circulatory system. If that is left unchecked, that could lead to symptoms of diabetes because of we're constantly in fight or flight in both in those states, especially as a teacher, because anything can go during the school day. You'll have a plan for the school day, you'll have your lesson plan down, but then there's a fire drill. You'll have something planned again for a lesson plan, then something happens to one of your students, or maybe you get called to the office to talk to a parent, right? So it's important to use self-care practice or prioritize self-care to buffer against those things in regards to fight or flight as well. Also, it's important to take in self-inventory. Are your behaviors serving your person and profession? All right, is it serving your person and your profession where you work at, right? Are you reacting or are you responding to your thoughts, feelings, or behaviors? This is really about personal inventory. What behaviors do you want to are worth keeping or enhancing? Really doing a self-inventory, right? What is really helping you be your best self, or what is holding you back from being your best self, right? Really take a personal inventory about that, right? All right, what activities help me to recharge and maintain my well-being throughout the week, right? Take 2 seconds or take 3 seconds to think about that. I'll give you another tip. So sometimes the best thing, or one good tip is to control your environment. Control whether it's your personal environment or maybe it's your school environment, your classroom. One thing you could do is declutter your environment, right? A cluttered mind is a cluttered environment may lead to cluttered thinking. I came past this one intervention called the KonMari method. It's been developed by Marie Kondo. It's basically where you take an item, and if that item brings you joy, you thank you thank that item. But if it doesn't bring you joy, you get rid of that item. Therefore, you're decluttering your environment. So that's one way that you can have more power throughout in your personal or your professional setting in terms of a part for your self-care routine. So more on self-care and personal identity. There's a lot that goes with it as well. It's about development of self-knowledge, about knowing yourself, knowing your triggers, knowing your values, knowing more about the nuances about you, about your own boundaries as well. How far you're willing to go, and also knowing your limits. It's very important to know about that in regards to self-care. Because you don't want to overextend yourself into what was this thing called burnout, right? So self-knowledge is very critical. Also, it's about self-esteem and self-worth. You are worthy. You are important as a teacher. You're very valuable and critical in terms our next of who you're teaching, right? Uh, you're role models. You're very important in terms uh, of of, of what you contribute. So self-esteem and and self-worth come from self-care as well. It shows that you're worthy of taking care of yourself, and it shows that you're worthy as a person as well. Right? Okay. So we talk about coping versus healing. Now they're very similar. They're very close, but we could do a lot of things to cope. And coping is nuanced, really, because this exists on a spectrum as well. So we could cope. And also to define it a little bit more, coping is more like a temporary fix, if you will. We can do things that are positive in terms of of coping, right? But we could also do things that aren't as positive as we want them to be. So, but we want to be in the mode of healing, right? And that may require more of a grouping, more making ourselves whole. It might be that hard work. It might be you might find yourself going to a professional, right? You might see yourself talking to a therapist, right? It might be about addressing those wounds that you or that trauma in terms of thinking about the healing. That takes more work than coping, which is really uh, could be a temporary fix, or it suppresses the problem at the moment, right? um, and we want to be mindful of our triggers and how we cope, and then we also want to be mindful of how we heal ourselves as well, right? So let's keep moving. So different psychosocial stressors that are specific to educators. So there's a lot. I have at least 10 on here, and just look at the screen and see which ones actually apply to you. If this matters in your work or school life as an educator. Some of the things we can't control. I've partnered with teachers in schools. Like a lot of times we it's hard to control student behavior. Um, Work life harmony. I don't like saying balance, because there's different themes that are more pronounced in our life during in our work life journey. Right, our school environment as well. A lot of things we may or not be able to control, but and also we anticipate things that are coming, such as we can't control uh, workplace cuts, right? We can't control personnel cuts, right? But we can anticipate and plan and also adapt as well. In terms of job security and workload and time, I encourage people to leverage things like technology, right? We are in an AI revolution or AI stage. Chat GPT. The reason why I bring that up is because this can help you as a teacher bring back your regain time. You can leverage this technology to de-stress, right? So you could use this as an additional skill uh, to broaden your awareness as a teacher, and how to gain back more time in terms of accomplishing different tasks, right? Also, I found different websites in terms of like leveraging your time at school in the context of self-care. There's this website called teachers buy from or teacherspayteachers.com. They had different lesson plans, different things that you could look into in terms of recapturing your time, right? Also, advocating to admin or your principals or vice principals about having certain blocks of time cut off just for planning, just to be able to regroup, just to be able to regain your composure after teaching classes. I was in a school, and I gave some consultation to a team about this. Where teachers really need time just to regroup, uninterrupted. So it's really important to advocate for that with admin. Also, social workers or other helping professionals such as counselors are in the school building. We know that they're primarily there for students, but also tap into them at your school as well, right? Because they may be able to provide other things, other resources to you as far as a teacher. When I worked at a school, and this social worker, she actually was able to advocate and bring in massage chairs for teachers. So your social workers are good points or good portals of resources to get for teachers within the schools to be able to practice even more self-care. So use what you have, right? So use technology, use your helping professional personnel, and also advocate for time to be able to regroup, right? So even some even more strategies you want to practice as far as self-care practices. Practice mindfulness, meditation, breathing exercises as well. I left physical activity for your own imagination, whether that's walking, whether that's weightlifting, wherever that you want that to be. Some schools even have developed a culture where they have walking clubs or the step clubs as well. Pursue hobbies and interests. You want to have work-life harmony, right? You want to really have that. You want to remain. You want to have a social support system. That's a biological imperative that we have positive co-regulation, right? We want to be able to support one another, have a network, family, friends, and / co-workers for emotional support. But I want to put a caveat on that. And this is not about in terms of social support, this is not about finding the friend or support that you could trauma bond with. When I say trauma bond, that means a person that has something that they're always complaining about. This is somebody that you want, that could stretch you and make you better, right? Stretch you, make you better in terms of your character and your professionalism, right? You want to be around that person for emotional support, right? It may be a point where you come to a point of professional counseling. If you feel that you believe that you're overwhelmed by stress or anxiety, please seek that out. Also, healthy lifestyle choices. I put this stuff in here intentionally. Please consult a nutritionist. I am not a medical provider, but please, food affects mood. We want to be able to monitor. We want to be able to eat healthy fats, right? That give us power and energy. This is good self-care. We need proteins as well. Please limit bleached foods. What I mean by that is limit white rice, limit pasta, limit bread. The reason why I say that, because this is carbohydrates, it's sugar, and it makes us more dehydrated during our days of teaching and preaching to students. Right? Trust me, I worked in schools, and I'm aware. Want to have at least, if you can, 8 hours of sleep a night. Please curate your bedroom, make it dark as possible. Please don't have any flickering lights on, because it can interrupt your REM, your sleep, your deep sleep, and you want to have a refreshed mind so you wake up energetic during the next day. Also, hydration. A lot of people say, "Oh, just drink water to become rehydrated," but actually, when you're drinking water alone, you'll dehydrate yourself more because you're washing out all the nutrients. So what you want to have is more electrolytes in your system. So if you're going to drink, have water, and have one of the in your some of the in your water. What I mean by that, you want to have sodium, potassium, magnesium, all those things in your water. Those are electrolytes. Those are things that you need. Limit and also limit white salt. That's also bleached as well. That has no nutrients in it. Try Himalayan salt. That has some of the things that I already mentioned as well, and that'll help you feel more energetic, um, and also improve your cognition during the day, right? Because as you're going, we only have a limited amount of decisions that we can make in terms of or positive decisions as we make during the school day, right? Because our energy goes down. So stay hydrated. So we want you to become the best version of you. We want you to become resilient as possible. We want you to become that person that is constantly being, doing, and having. It's a process. It's a system. It just doesn't happen over time. It takes adjustment, because we're always in a constant state of becoming. And self care is a confidence builder, right? The more competent you feel about self care, the more confidence you'll have, right? Because you'll have more energy, and you'll know yourself and your limits more as well, and also how far you can push yourself, right? So we talked about co-regulation a little bit. Who in my life gives me a sense of support, and how can I reach out to them when I need it? Take 3 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds to write those names. 3 to 5 seconds. Who in my life? Write down at least 2 to 3 people. Who in my life gives me a sense of support, and how can I reach out to them when I need it? Will that person be on campus, or those persons be on campus, or will that person be a text away, right? Who is that person? Because we all need to positively co-regulate and practice this as far as strategy and self-care, right? Can I or will you can you or will you make self-care a routine? Can you or will you make a self-care routine practice? There's only two things that we don't. There's things that we don't want. Two things that we don't want to run around in this life. I heard this person say, we don't want to run out of time, because if we run out of time, obviously we won't be here. And on the second thing, he said, we don't want to run out of health. Those are two things that we don't want to run out in life, right? So it's imperative that you practice the self-care in the slivers of time. Your time as a teacher and as an educator is very critical and important. Those are things that we cannot regain. Please practice self-care within the slivers of time. It doesn't have to be a big dramatic incident, but it's over the school year, over the breaks, over our days, right? So there's no limited resources. There are no limited resources. Everything doesn't exist on externally, but we have a lot of resources internally, right? We have a lot of the intangibles that could help us in terms of self-care. So self-compassion, be kind to yourself, right? Know that that this is very critical to the concept of self-care. You have to have compassion as far as being, whether you're a first-year teacher or whether you're a teacher that's taught over several decades. It's important to practice that for yourself, because this is important for self-care. You want to practice boundaries as well, and practicing boundaries, that's really more of a skill, because it's sometimes we may fall into the routine or the habit of saying yes when we really mean no. So let your yeses mean yes and your no's mean no's. So boundary building or boundary having is a skill. Want to practice connection, this is a theme through our presentation. Also gratitude. Find the smallest thing in your life and have gratitude for. Whatever we're gratitude for, the more we will have gratitude for. These are inner resources, and we can't run out of these. So having gratitude for whatever that is, I thank you for For instance, you can say, thank you. I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for my students. I'm thankful for my leadership at my school, right? And that will actually change your inner biology in terms of what you say and how you speak, right? There's a book that said, the great good book says, life and death is actually in the power of the tongue. So we have to be very mindful in terms of what we say to ourselves, and also um, what we're gratitude for, and also practice self compassion, right? So we are biological. We're not just logical beings. We are biological beings as well. You're a very dynamic person. I'm not sure if there's any biology teachers or science teachers in the room, but uh, we're built. We have certain inborn or inbuilt chemicals. We have dopamine, we have serotonin, we have endorphins, we have oxytocin. And all these neurotransmitters or chemicals can be harnessed through behaviors, through language as well, right? To buffer against this thing called cortisol, or when we're distressed. There's a research that said that the cortisol is highest throughout our day in the morning, right? It's highest in our day throughout the morning as we're getting ready, as we're getting up, as we're preparing for our day, right? So why not practice self-care to buffer against this thing, the stress hormone cortisol, right? So we can harness things like dopamine, which is more reward based, right? We could get this um, chemical from doing exercise or deep breathing. Serotonin, we can get this from the sun. This is the great. This tends to relax us. Uh, we could get it from different behaviors. As far as oxytocin, we could they get that from social behaviors as well, through connection, through physical connection, through um, hugging someone, right? Through group uh, projects, right? Group memories, oxytocin, right? That's how we're connected to our parents, right? That's how we're connected to our mothers, right? That's how we build that. That's how we're connected to our loved ones, oxytocin. Also, endorphins is a feel good chemical as well, where we could harness that and get that from exercising once again, from breathing, from different behaviors or healthy behaviors. Can We can get that from, right? Okay, so let's look at a little bit more about holistic self care, and also practicing more awareness, and listening to our bodies, listening to ourselves, listening to the sensations in our bodies, listening to the tightness that we may feel in our bodies when we are stressed. Going through our processes. If we are feeling depressed, if we are feeling angry, if we are feeling upset, it's okay to go through your process. Self care is not about denying self. It's about, if you do have to go, if you are feeling those emotions, let your ups be your ups, let your downs be your downs. It's very important to listen to yourself as you go throughout your day and throughout your process. And like I mentioned earlier, we are in schools. There is that fight and flight um, theme, if you will. Whenever that bell rings, we're moving to the next class, or we don't know what that next teaching hour may bring. Right? We also have the power to create moments in terms of joy with our self care, and also we were able to make proper and healthy boundaries in terms of holistic self care. So let's keep moving on. So in terms of your mind, mindful breathing. Start each day with a few minutes of mindful breathing to center yourself before your school day starts. While you're in the car, while you're driving, I encourage you to turn to powerful podcasts that could that could give you even more skills. Because there's a quote the other day that said, the more knowledge we have uh, uh, helps us regulate the pressure that life puts on us. The more knowledge we have helps us to regulate the pressure that life puts on us. So that means the more that we can problem solve, the less stress that we feel over time. Reflective journaling. Please also limit social media usage, because we don't know what can show up on our feeds, whether that's on Instagram or Facebook or on Twitter. I think it's known as X now. Use the mental tool of visualization. Please, or use the theater of your mind to be able to visualize your school day. So when you visualize your school day, you can visualize it with your eyes open or with your eyes closed, and rehearse in your mind what may happen in different specific incidences. Whether that incident is with your with a colleague, it can be with your admin, or with a student. How you would perform and respond, not react, and respond to those persons. Right? Visualization is a very, very powerful tool. You can also practice and use that in the mirror as well, along with affirmations, because what that does is it trains your nervous system to be able to respond accordingly, where you're not really consciously thinking about your behavior. Also, I talked about continuous professional development that goes along with educational podcasts. The more you can problem solve, the less stress you feel over time, and less likely that you move toward burnout. So for your body as well, comfortable clothing. This is a little bit out of the box, but please lean toward more the organic items, organic materials, such as organic cotton, organic linen, or organic wool. The reason why I say is because things like polyester, nylon, those things tend to leak into our biggest organ, which is our skin, and over time, those things affect us. There's different studies on that, but you want to have comfortable clothing that, if you're up and down during the school day, up and down the steps, you're in the classroom, moving around from station to station, teaching from one module to the module, you're sweating. You want to be able to breathe. You want to allow your body to breathe and not overheat. You want to have quality sleep as well. As I mentioned earlier, you want to have 8 hours of sleep in a dark room. It's worth to mention again. And prepare for your students waking up refreshed every day. Stress reducing activities. You want to, if you can, use some resistance bearing training. It doesn't have to be anything that's heavy. This is about practice and habits. This is about doing something habitual. You could have it. You could literally reverse any type of malady, not any type, but most maladies by resistance training, deep breathing. I promise you, once you breathe, where there's oxygen, there's less disease. You'll have more energy in your body during the morning. I actually practice this every morning, as far as stretching and breathing to buffer my day as a social worker. I know you could benefit from this as an educator as well, dealing with all the personalities that you deal with in terms of the school community. Practice healthy snacking as well. Less white sugar related content. Reason why I stress this is because when we have those sodas, when we have those juices that sugar content in it, it actually dehydrates us, and it causes us to be more tired throughout the day. We might feel, and actually with that sugar, especially when we drink soda, we may feel that we're hungry, but in reality, your body is saying that it's dehydrated. So if you're able to watch this video, watch what I talk about in terms of salts, which I already covered in terms of hydration. All right, for your soul, connect with nature. Spend time in nature. This is the summertime. Let's ground ourselves. Let's catch as much sun as possible. Connect with what's natural. what's bigger than us. Um, Create hobbies that are outside of your of teaching. Create goals, and this is about fulfillment. Create small goals and big goals. This is about stretching yourself. This is about becoming the bigger uh, you, right? And once you see that, and once you achieve your personal goals, you will have so much confidence as a person outside of uh, being an educator, and that will do so much for you in terms of your self-esteem and confidence as far as within your soul. And anything that's related to your soul is about expansion. It's about getting bigger. Anything that's related, because your soul is bigger than your body, right? In terms of your invisible you. Uh, Also, the practicing forgiveness, right? Uh, this is Forgiveness is such a mental health benefit. It is critical to mental health because it allows us to process uh, what that offender did to us, and it allows us to move on. Forgiveness is not for that person that offended you; it's actually for you. So whoever this applies to in your life, practice the subject of forgiveness. It doesn't happen, forgiveness doesn't happen in one sitting. It's happened several times over. It's a process. Even the good book, the Bible says, practice forgiveness 70 times seven. It's a process. It doesn't mean practice to that you forgive that person, you'll forget. It means forgiving over time. It only helps us, and it relates to something called engrams in regard to mental health. Engrams are negative memories related or negative memories related to trauma as well. So when we pair forgiveness with resolving those engrams, that could improve our overall health, and that's a critical part for self-care. One person said, Lisa Nichols, she said, replenish your spirit, and it will allow you to serve from the overflow. And that is so true with a subject like forgiveness. Also, use a strategy of meditation. Now, we briefly talked about prayer or linking with your higher power. Prayer is more about talking, but meditation is more so about listening. We want to also listen as well, right? And that takes time to engage your soul. That is even more practice, right? And this is all these are part of holistic care. So for overall well-being, um, practice boundaries between work and home. This once again, this is a skill, and skills take time to learn. Join professional learning committees. We cannot do anything as an individual. Every ruling class is part of a group, right? Teachers are very powerful. I know you guys have a great and powerful union. We can't do anything by ourselves. In respect to mental health, partner and pair with anyone that could improve improve your health over time as a teacher, right? Um, Seek professional support, whether that person is a medical doctor, whether that person is a therapist. It's okay. It's okay to seek help and to benefit from that. Also, if you have any workplace benefits or EAP, please consult that as well at your job, whether that's in DC, Maryland, Virginia. Please consult that at your workplace. So different resources. I gleaned these different resources. These resources, the 10 warning signs from Kaiser, 10 warning signs your mental health may be declining. Black or African American therapists in Washington, D.C., and the Black Therapy Network, right? Those are resources that you can tap into if you choose to, for whether that's psychoeducation or you choose to get a full-on therapist. and hopefully these resources can be forwarded to you later. All right. There's different self-care apps as well. You can go to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store and download these different apps you could listen to or engage in. Fitbit, for instance, at some of my schools that I work with multiple schools throughout DC. Some schools have a culture where they join together and they have the fitness trackers and they look at the steps and they create a whole culture about that. And what that does is that forms community, right? And you're more likely to stay in a place where you're appreciated and you're a part of a community when you practice something like this. There's another apps like Bud, Insight Timer, and different Happify. There's multiple other type of apps that you could look at and find for yourself in terms of self-care apps. So write down 2 self-care activities that you could do on a daily basis. We talked about stretching. We talked about hydration. We talked about breathing. We talked about connecting, which is a biological imperative. We talked about things that can stretch you. We talked about things in terms of our mind, body, and our soul, right? We talked about goal formation. We talked about goal achievement. We talked about just becoming bigger, right? We talked about technology. This is the AI revolution, and I believe that AI can help you regain time and help you regain time to practice more things like self-care, right? And to limit stress and to even help you have more ideas, right? In terms of student engagement and also different interventions, right? So self-care, write down 2 for yourself, all right? 2 activities. So this is a book that I created in terms of my experience. I created this book out of necessity, and this is a pain point that impacts a lot of college graduates throughout the United States. I'm able to speak on this subject because I did pay back my student loans of close to $60,000. So I'm of the belief that if someone has done it, I want to know how. Done something like this, I would like to know how to do it myself. That is pay back your student loans. This, like I said, this is a pain point for a lot of people, and financial stress is something that we would like to get through and get past. I know the government is doing a lot right now to help forgive student loans, but also we have to have a plan in turn for ourselves, no matter who the president is, to get rid of our student loans as well. So you can find me at different in my email, in my YouTube channel as well, where I talk about student loans. The name of the book is How to Win Against Student Debt, and there's the link as well. That's at Amazon.com. I'm on Amazon. I'm on Google Play. I'm on multiple platforms. So Audible as well. So different areas. So I hope you can. I know you will benefit from this book, right? Whether you listen to it or read it. So once again, this is about being, doing, and having. Being aware of your mindset about self-care. You deserve it. Be aware of your triggers. Be aware of your emotions, your needs. Yeah, be aware of your values. What do you value? Do you value your physical health, your emotional health? What do you value in terms of being? Do the activities. He or she who practices, does the work, gains the strength. Self-care is work. You will have more energy, less stress, more clarity when you practice some of these self-care strategies. It's all about doing, and having. And you have it in you as a teacher, and you are worthy, right? So if you would also like a generic self-care schedule, add your email to the chat. I'll be able to glean that at another time, and I'll be able to send you a generic self-care schedule, right? Once again, I appreciate you, Ms. Jones, President Harrison, and the committee for allowing me to come and speak to your group. It was a plum pleasing pleasure to be able to share some topics, some tips, and strategies in regards to self-care in this month of mental health. So I appreciate you guys, and I'll turn it back over to you, Ms. Jones.
First off, I want to say that was a magnificent presentation. It was so filled with so much information for our educators. And me as a social worker, I don't work in the school system, but it was very helpful for me. So we thank you so much for volunteering to support our mission of mental health. I just want to thank you again. I'll thank our leadership for their support for our mental health agenda. I just want to do one little reminder just to let people know there are resources. If you're struggling, you can always dial 988, which is parity for mental health. We dial 911 for a medical emergency, and now we can dial 988 for a mental health emergency. And so we just want people to know that there are resources available, but when you've met your wits end, there is help immediately available to you. So I want to thank everyone for coming and joining our mental health webinar. And we will share more information to come on some events that we'll have throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for GoGo Fitness in the Park, please do. We have some spots available. We'd love to see you. We're going to move for mental health on 6/22. And so thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.